The International Blind Cafe 18 Plus presents Conversations from Booth 6.
This episode is brought to you by Thoughts 2-4.
Order up.
Is this the one for booth 6?
Yep.
Welcome back to Booth 6 here at the International Blind Cafe. This week, our discussion turns to a more serious topic, that of employment. Making a means for oneself can be challenging even without sight loss. But having sight loss or being blind and living a blind life presents its whole host of challenges for those who want to be employed. Jason, if you could start us off this week, what is the most common barrier that you hear from others in the blind community about employment?
Scout, I'm really glad to hear that we're doing that topic tonight. Well, firstly, I'd like to say I was gainfully employed since I was 14 until blindness hit. And one of the big things as I lost my vision, my employer from the transportation industry, their operations manager kind of says, well, what would it look like and what would others say to have a blind driver trainer in the industry? So optics is a huge thing from the industry in which I come. But when talking to the members of the group, lots of times it's accommodation, ignorance, and ignorance I mean by the lack of education on their part. People don't realize that blind can only just mean blind. We're smart, intelligent, high-functioning people that happen to get by with different things. In fact, they could save money. They don't have to buy computer monitors ever again. But anyway, so to speak to that, there's a few guys in the group tonight that have all been gainfully employed most of their lives. So Terrence, why don't you start off tonight? Talk about your journey into employment.
So, I'm a professional musician, right? And getting that going in itself was it was interesting. Okay, because I started young. I started playing around about the time you know professionally. 14. So you and I share at least our start of our working careers. We're same age, right? But the challenges that you run into. So the biggest thing for me is sheet music, and because of course I can't read it. There was no one to teach me Braille music. It's available, but it's just one of those things. I just don't know how to read Braille music, so I've had to learn how to do everything by ear. What has helped me out with my career, really, along with, of course, just good quality headphones, is YouTube. Because, man, just about anything you need is on YouTube. So a lot of stuff that I do is choral music. So somebody has reproduced it, right? And so being able to listen to it and find it. But I remember going, because I was going to go to this place that did piano lessons. And I sat down with the guy and I said, look, man, I don't need piano lessons. But I said, I'll be willing to pay you to go over the music with me. And I don't know what the disconnect was. He was like, well, he's like flat out, well, if Stevie Wonder can play really well, I know you can. There's no issue with you being blind. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I can play. I just need someone to go over the music with me, right? And it was just getting people to understand that. Just to do that piece was a little challenging. So the gentleman I work with now, he and I sit down, we go over the music together, the choral music, and I memorize it. I memorize multiple sheets of music, and I get the work done. But just getting started with it, before I made it to this point, I've had people turned me down for a gig because they said, how are you going to be able to do it if you can't watch me conduct? It's like, but I know the music inside and out. I go whichever way you want to go. And so I spent a lot of time proving to them, right? You learn to, so in my case, you learn to play defensively. Like, sighted people are taught to drive defensively. So the blessing is I have been able to do it. I started at 14. I've had consistent gigs since I was 16, and that is how I pay the bills, right?
That's awesome. And yeah, you demonstrated it's just a lack of knowledge that's out there. The blind community, it seems that blind people are invisible. So Dion, you've been employed with the group you're with, or your employer, for quite a long time. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about your blind employment journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you, I had low vision all my life, and thank God I still have some vision left that I could use. But I can't do my current job without technology, whether that be screen readers, CCTVs, that kind of thing. But for me, I was one of them go-getters. So I always would put, I wasn't sure if I applied for a job, if I should put it out there to the employer that I had low vision or not, because I know one time that they would probably choose somebody else above me, but if they did, well, they lost a good employee. But yeah, I'm lucky enough now to work for an organization. Actually, it's the CNIB here in Canada, probably the biggest national organization here for people that are blind or partially sighted. And I love it. I go to work every day, and I got the support, luckily. But I do know that a lot of people going out for work don't have the supports that I have. And we as a national organization, and I'm sure organizations across the globe, are always, I guess, looking and advocating for people to put in supports for people that are blind or partially sighted so that they can do their jobs. And without those supports, I wouldn't be able to do what I do today. I work all my life, luckily, only because I'm one of them people that says, hey, you need me. I'd love to work for you. I can guarantee you I'm reliable. I can do this, I can do that. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't have those supports. And I think collectively, we need to bring attention to that, because statistics actually say that if you hire somebody with a disability, whether it be vision loss or any other disability, they're the ones that are most reliable. They're the ones that you can depend on. They'll put in the most time. And I always show up for work, and blah, 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 just to make a long story short. But yeah, I'm luckily, I'm fortunate. I'm 50, and I worked since I was 16 years old. Now, I'm not sure if that's part of my personality, or lucky enough to find people that is willing to support me in my work journey. But yeah, I've been gainfully employed for a long time.
That's a very fair point you make, though. Like, the supports have to be there for the employer's gotta. It's the duty to accommodate, but at the same time, the employee, us being the person with the blindness, has to be able to push and meet them part way. We can't just sit there and say, well, I'm blind, so you've got to just roll out the red carpet and welcome me in. We've got to prove that we're going to be the employee they're looking for. And like you say, the statistics say that the person with the disability, be it blindness or in a wheelchair or one of the various disorders out there, they do, once they've got a job, they're much more loyal, because let's face it, finding work as a person with disabilities is way tougher. So once you've got a job, that job is way more valuable to the person with a disability than it is to a sighted person.
And you're not going to do anything to risk losing that position, and you're going to work your butt off, for the lack of a better term. And yeah, for sure.
I came from trucking, where if I didn't like the company I was driving for today, I could say F you and be driving a different colored truck the very next day. So loyalty in that industry is very fickle, and so that comes with the attitude of their management. Like, well, it's not the right image we want. So because there's going to be another person coming the door from the other direction right away. So Ken, welcome back to the booth. You've been employed for a very long time. In fact, you retired as a blind man. So why don't you give us a kind of the long and short of your employment journey with vision impairment?
Well, I'll tell you, sitting here listening to Dion and Terrence made me go way back to when I started looking for work. I was in college, and I got a job working at a little family-owned hotel in a tourist district of Norfolk, Virginia, called Ocean View. And the job was basically an ad in the newspaper. I just answered the ad. Didn't tell the man that I talked to that I had a vision problem. And he hired me on the spot, told me to come on in, and we'd see what we could do. And when I got there, I told him I was nearsighted, because I was always telling everybody I was nearsighted. I worked for that man for a long time, every summer, it seemed like. But I knew that wasn't going to be a job I wanted to retire from. My stepfather was a person who worked for Dominion Power. At the time, it was called Virginia Electric and Power. And he actually tried to get me a job working the telephone trouble desk, where people would be out of power and they'd call the company, and the company would send a truck out. But they told me they couldn't hire me because their insurance would not allow them to do so. And then I tried to get on with Sears, and Sears said the same thing. People that weren't seeing me were telling me that their insurance would not cover me on the job. So a friend of mine was looking for a business partner in a gas station business, and I happened to have some money, and I had some credit. So I went in, and I was a 50-50 partner with him, and I wound up buying him out. Wound up owning 5 gas stations before it was all over. I think I mentioned that earlier. But here again, I had to do this on my own, and then that got to be pretty hectic. My mom made arrangements for me to take an exam to see if I would qualify for the Randolph-Shepard Act, which is a program that every state has. And I took that. That was, to me, that was a no-brainer test that they gave me. And I got into that. And so pretty much my early career in business and in working was me trying to get on by myself, and then my mom going to the state and getting me into a state program. And the state program was pretty decent. It was good. And I didn't need any accommodations for what we were doing. So I was in pretty good shape back in those days. I had more usable sight back then too. So, but I just didn't have enough to qualify to be safe on the job with large companies, it seems like.
Yeah, it seems that's something I've heard in amongst groups and conversations I've had with other people in the sight loss community. Or you almost are deemed a liability, and well, you might trip on the edge of the carpet, or you might run into the door, or you might hit somebody with your cane. But like I said, I've worked all my life, and I've slipped on a slippery floor in a bakery. I've fallen off a flat deck trailer. I've slipped on the step getting out of a big truck, and I did all that as a sighted person. So the liability thing is always kind of stuck in my craw, so to speak, and kind of kind of sat with me the wrong way. Terrence, you work in a group setting. How do your coworkers treat you on a day-to-day basis while you're at work as a blind person?
The running joke is I can see. That's the running joke right now. They're like, we know you're lying. We know you're faking. Because I navigate the building very well, and I was just sitting there chuckling because it wasn't an insurance liability issue with me, right? But Ken also was from a different time, where you just can't fact check that, right? You just got to deal with what they say. But my coworkers, they're very cool, very accepting, and that's fortunate for me. My buddy goes around. He tells people. He said, growing up, everybody knew that I was blind, but me. But that goes to my background. My grandmother taught me to just kind of, when you get put in a situation, learn it, learn where you're at, learn your environment, and own it. So that woman didn't play games with me. So that's how I approached the school. This is where I'm going to work. What floor are we on? This is my room. Cool. Don't change my room around. And it's times that I have gone to the restroom, I washed my hands and everything, and I walked out the door and left my cane. Now, one of the guys was like, "Hey, think you might need this." Oh snap! Yeah, I do need that. Thank you. But I've walked through the halls with it. Without it, I walk on the proper side of the hall. For everybody that's out there listening, we are still in North America. You walk and drive on the right side of the road in the hallway. Please walk and drive on the right side of the road in the hallway. And for the students that the only mishaps that we have are those who don't understand that, but they do know what 370 means when they run full off into me because, reasons. Because teenagers don't look up for whatever reason, right? And I'm fortunate to have a very accepting and very cool crew. We have staff meetings. They help me out with stuff like that. The only issue that I've run into is just the understanding that our format for getting me to work, whatever we have to do for staff meetings, we discuss it. We talk about Microsoft Word, and it never shows for Microsoft Word. But they're a very accepting group, and I'm thankful to be in that situation with them.
Dion, I know you work really in the blind community for CNIB, which is a blind advocacy organization in Canada here, and they do a lot of great work. Talk to us a little bit about working with the folks that are really trying to advocate and make sure blind people are really getting what they're needing in the community.
Jason, I'll tell you now, it's the best job that I've ever had in my life, truthfully. Number one, for accommodations, and it's something about meeting the people that you serve, clients coming in, whether they be young children or older adults that lost their sight later in life or born blind. I never get up in the morning. I'm there 15 years. I never get up in the morning and say, "Oh boy, I got to get up and go to work." Never happened yet. So it's really fulfilling for me. The team that we have here in the province is nothing short of amazing. There's no such thing as roles. You don't have a role with us. If there's anybody who needs a hand, there's everybody there. There's always someone there to give you a hand or help out with a certain project or whatever. But I love it. I really do. And I mean, I got to work tomorrow morning. Can't wait to go. To be honest. So, it's very fulfilling to see. Like, I've seen clients coming and going from a few years that came in through the door, say, for example, and they didn't want to talk about their vision loss or even admit that they had vision loss. And after a while, chatting with us, me or my other colleague, in a relaxed environment, they're more prone to, say, use their white cane, which would obviously let the public know that they're somebody with low vision, or learn a little bit of technology as it relates to apps that are available on your phone for free that you can read labels on bean cans or whatever the case, whatever, in the grocery store. But yeah, I consider myself really fortunate as it relates to being able to work. Now, having said that, I worked long before this position, and it was more of a struggle because you had to either not disclose your vision loss, or you had to let them know discreetly that, well, I can't see very well, so I might have to do this or I might have to do that, or whatever the case may be. But I think employers these days are getting more, I guess, educated as it relates to hiring people with disabilities, not necessarily vision loss, but all disabilities, and just interview somebody with vision loss. And if they're qualified, I can promise you they'll do an awesome job related to whatever task that you put forward to them, as long as you got the supports. But it's very, very, very important that you have supports, whether it be technology, you know what I mean? Whatever you need to make your job easier or make you do your job great. I think that's a conversation that I think governments, number one, should have across the globe, because we're not useless. We're very, very loyal, and like Ken lived the life, his whole life, business owner, and same as Terrence. I mean, Terrence works full time, same as I do, right? So they shouldn't shortchange us.
Oh, definitely. And stepping back just a few minutes there, you mentioned about just being fulfilling. It's just got to be great when you help somebody out and give somebody the hope that they need to move forward in their blindness journey, and just letting them know that it's possible to be something as somebody with sight loss. And Ken, we know that you did more than the Shepherd program and run cafeterias and gas stations. You also spent a lot of your time as a disability advocate in the United States. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, sure. Before I got into my last job, which seems like at that point that I felt like Dion, my last 25 years were the best 25 years of my working career. Going into that, I was really active in local disability politics in Virginia Beach, and then I went from there to regional, and then from there to national. I've been real active with the American Council of the Blind. I'm a lifetime member. I was the president of the state organization. I served as first vice president of the Virginia Association of the Blind. I started the largest chapter in Virginia of the NFB, the National Federation of the Blind, which is also a competitor of the ACB. So it's interesting how those two work. But I don't care what side of the coin you're on, as long as something gets done and it gets done to help people. I don't care to get the credit. I don't care to get the plaudits. I just care to get it done, and that's the way I've always been. I think that one of the things I see is when it comes to getting a job as a person with a disability, more especially blindness, since that's what we all deal with, it can be expensive to get the accessibility that you need to do a job like JAWS and anything else that comes along that you might think is needed. A lot of times, and this is not your counselor's fault, it's a fault of not having the money, I think, a lot of times. If you need a certain product, the agency will try to get you one similar to and less than expensive, less expensive, because they can't afford to get you the Cadillac, which is probably a lot of times you need the Cadillac, a lot of times you don't. But I think that, and see, people who are blind, they just don't have the money. They don't have the money to go out and buy their own stuff. I've been very fortunate. If I think I need something, my wife sees to it that I get it. And I'm very lucky in that regard. But I've got a whole box of assistive technology that I've outgrown and outused and, would love to get rid of.
You make a fair point there. And anybody who's trying to get a job can't invest in the job before they have the job, because usually they're getting a job to get the paycheck. And that goes for people with disabilities, including people that are blind. And a lot of that assistive technology is cost prohibitive until you've got gainful employment.
That's it.
So it's kind of the chicken and the egg concept. So
Yeah, absolutely. Because the whole Braille music issue is right now. So I send out just a piece of music to be transcribed just to test it out, right? Braille is a larger format than print. So what we did is we just sent the piano part, no choral part of this music. It was 4 pages of the accompaniment. It came out to about 9 pages for the in Braille, and the price to do that was $75 for 9 pages of Braille embossed music, and that's one piece of music. Can't pay $75 a piece of music. On the flip side, I could, if I had the software, I could do it, right? But the software is $1,500. A Braille embosser is $4,000, and then so on and so forth, right?
and there too, the sighted community doesn't see that, because they go down to the photocopy machine, photocopy it for the 10 cents a page, or whatever the rounded cost is, and so those are the barriers we do face in the employment. In my previous job, I used to go, because I was the trainer at a trucking company, and I'd go photocopy every time a class of 5 or 6 drivers came on every week, and there was 1,000 pages of photocopying I did every week. I couldn't imagine having to do that somewhere where it had to be in Braille.
Yeah. But that's the thing, kind of how we work out now. He can read the music, but he can't play like I can. And I play quite good, but I can't read the music. So we sit down and we split the difference. And we've taken the kids to Solo Ensemble Festival. And it's funny because one of the rules for Solo Ensemble Festival is the accompanist must have a piece of the original music on the piano. And of course, mine it's never open. But I follow right along with the adjudicator. Can we go to measure here and page there? And I'm dead on his or her head with it. And afterwards, they're like, how do you do that? Because I like doing other stuff that Social Security don't allow. And this is the rules y'all said I had to play for to do it. So here I is.
Well, and that's the thing. As long as we keep breaking the barriers, the blind people can, and people with other disabilities, like there's the barriers for all of us, and these are they're true barriers, but we're up for the challenge, and that's what the employers need to see is we're up for the challenge, and we do it. Yeah, I'm never going to drive a truck again, but my brain's full of trucking knowledge.
If you'd like to join us, there's always a seat for you in Booth 6 at the International Blind Cafe, Discord server, and Facebook group.
Sweet!